What's going on, everybody? This is Amlet from Badlands Backlogs for Bleep Bloop Episode 9. We are close to 10. Doesn't feel like it, but it feels like this has been going on a century, but slow progress. Coming at you a little later, little delayed episode, but we'll be going over the developer direct that happened last week now. Uh, Joined, once again, by our dear friend, Mr. Kyle the Fish. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me back.
Always.
Excited to talk this.
Yes, you're the one person I just keep bringing along.
I'll come along. I'll do it.
We're good. So yeah, going in, second developer direct, as many know, last year's more infamously known for the Hi-Fi Rush spread drop. And I believe off the top of my head, the rest was Redfall, Forza, and Minecraft Legends. And
yeah.
might have been another one that I'm spacing out on, but it's a nice style of what they have. It's different. There's no CEOs talking. There's no like media briefing type thing. It's just very candid. Here's some people making games. Here's what they're working on. First-hand experiences. And for the most part, it's stuff that's coming out in this year, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, and the last year that one other game was the Elder Scrolls Online expansion, which this year they moved off of the show and just they had this expansion have a showcase right after the developer direct, which was interesting. But yeah, all those games did come out last year that they talked about. So this year I expect the same, which is really exciting.
Yeah, very much so. The Elder Scrolls announcement too, very cool. I'm not super into it. Caitlin plays a ton of it randomly, which she's not a multiplayer gamer, but loves Elder Scrolls Online. So I'll be watching that from a distance when it does happen.
Nice, yeah. I haven't dived in at all to it.
It's a time sink. Well, I attempted with her. We did like 2 weeks solid, and I saw the path ahead, and it was World of Warcraft PTSD, and I just couldn't.
Yeah, everyone can only have one of those games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that, all coming out within a year, which I like because it's very much saving grace from the one not E3 showcase I reference a lot, where they straight up were like, everything you see here today will be out in the next 12 months. And that famously had like Hollow Knight Silksong in there, still nowhere to be found, and just a lot of other stuff that was eventually delayed. So getting this more solid showcase to kind of start the year off, here's for sure what you're getting the next 12 months sort of thing. Super solid way of going about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think you start the year off well. You get to announce games that are coming out this year. Hopefully, I mean, indie is the one question out of this direct, just because it had a more vague date of 2024 as opposed to specific like the other ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that they get to kind of plant their flag in January, and we get to have Xbox kind of announce their stuff, and these games all look awesome. I liked the games last year. Redfall was the one that I just couldn't get into, but there was more of just the style of game, not even how it felt. I thought it played fine. It just wasn't for me at the end of the day. But other than that, like it's cool that we get these diverse games each year, and we get to know that hey, in January we're gonna know what Xbox is doing.
Yeah, it's such a good time too, because now it's kind of transitioned to the first couple months are just jam packed as much as like a November October release window is. So to have an early event like this compared to waiting till June usually or summer showcases, what have you.
Yeah, I agree.
Coming into this, as you mentioned slightly, they did kind of announce ahead of time what was going to be shown, which most people assumed and was right with Hellblade 2, which if it wasn't here, I would have been dumbfounded. Avowed, which was a nice surprise. Aura History Untold, which is from Oxide Games, I believe just a partnership they have with that. And then, out of left field, Indiana Jones, which I think when they announced this the week before, it caught everyone off guard. Because we knew this was happening. It's been 2 years, I think, since they did the initial reveal, and it's just been radio silence since.
Yeah, I mean, this is like it's Indiana Jones. Just the property itself that draws in attention, and yeah, just kind of coming out of left field in the second week of January, saying, "Hey, we're going to show you gameplay of Indiana Jones." And it's like, "Oh, okay, exciting." So that, I mean, the other games I'm super hyped for and even before the direct, right? But seeing that announce that they were going to go into it and that they did was really hype.
Yeah, for sure. When we do get to Indiana Jones, I do have to piss some people off when we get there, but I'll save it just to keep people happy for now. Um, so we'll start with the showcase. Started off with Avowed, which I think was very strong. Um, very big focus on gameplay, a lot of scenery, a short glimpse of dialogue, very reminiscent of Outer Wilds. Um, it's pretty. Combat, I mentioned to you too, still doesn't quite have me. It looks very kind of by the numbers ish of how like melee attacks and stuff work. Although I am super down for the dual wielding wands and just being a complete maniac with that.
Yeah, I didn't think in the direct, like the gameplay they showed was great. Like I thought it did look a little odd and what they chose to show off. I questioned a little bit. I left a little like, huh, okay. But to me it was 100% an evolution of what Outer Worlds was, and I loved Outer Worlds. I wanted more from it though, so I think this is what Avowed is. We're gonna get more from that, and I'm excited with it. But I think what you're showing right now is the Xbox podcast. I thought they did better and they went more in depth, which is into that gameplay, and that made me feel a little better about it.
Yeah, it definitely kind of quelled some fears I had. It when we watched it, me and Caitlin were talking, and it wasn't quite not like, oh my god, I'm blanking, when like animation looks like oddly too realistic.
Oh, like Uncanny Valley.
Yeah, it wasn't quite that, but everything looked kind of like Pixar like shininess. I don't know. The blue character that they showed with the dialogue was just super off-putting to me, but the rest of it, like fauna, scenery, the landscapes, all super visually like stylized,
Yeah,
super nice to look at.
There's like a cartoony style to it, but then it's also realistic. And yeah, I mean, it's alpha gameplay footage. I think the character models are the roughest looking, especially the one you were referencing, that blue character. That those interactions looked really, really weird. It does have that. I see that uncanny. I see what you're saying with it, kind of that uncanny valley like stuff. But I thought the other person looked at some of the models when they showed the dialogue scenes looked better than some. I thought so. It's in development still. And that's that.
Yeah, it's to be expected. We don't know how long ago this was put together, if this was old footage, what have you, but it looks good. I think people are just
It looks so
excited.
good, though.
Yeah, I think people are just excited to see it because it was one of the ones that was announced so long ago, went like 2 years before the last trailer for it came out, so people
Yeah,
are just excited.
yeah, and with the combat, I think it seems like they want you to be really flexible with that, and seeing how that plays out in the gameplay footage looks really interesting. Um, so I want to see more of that and how that expands, and if it's worth it to switch between loadouts, or if it's just like I want to play a sword character right now, and it's easier to switch off. I'll do this now. I want there to be like, oh, this enemy necessitates that I go to this loadout now, and each loadout can have multiple types that it can uh, be strong against or whatever. But I just want that to be more meaningful as opposed to this is fun. I like to play like this, so this is why I'm doing it.
Yeah, sort of, so you're incentivized to try out the what else they have. Um,
Mhm.
Pulling from Xbox Wire here, I will read out fast. Uh, Narrative decisions can impact changes in the game down the line, expected from that team. Avowed is also looking to offer choice in combat. Gameplay director Gabe Paramo discussed not only how varied your weaponry will be with melee weapons, ranged guns, bows, and magic-based wands, yeehaw, but how flexible combat can be, allowing you to quickly change loadouts for enemy encounters. Swappable loadouts means you can approach combat however feels right to you. Which does sound like it will have that variety. I did see some people online, I think it was from the podcast afterwards, where they were giving examples of being able to like light the ground on fire, use tip over oil barrels, and like pull enemies into that to light them on fire.
That's cool.
There is also with some of the spells they did mention. I think it was the area they showed at the developer direct, that sort of deserty like canyon setting. They did mention that that's like entirely optional, and you may not even see that in the game.
Yeah, which is interesting because I felt like that was the only zone they really showed off with gameplay.
Yeah.
And they really didn't show us anything else, which is super interesting that yeah, in the podcast they said this is not you might miss this. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like what else are we going to see here, Cuz I don't think this environment, I mean outside of the green and the like blue of the oasis and the water, like that stark against the rocks was cool, but like I don't know, it's kind of a plain environment to me. This isn't the most breathtaking to me.
Take out the plants, and you know what it reminds me of? It gives me Halo 5 vibes in like the Arbiter's Canyon, where their like hideout thing is. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same type of rocks.
Also,
It's an interesting choice to go with this environment, but knowing that hey, this isn't even like something we're gonna make you play, that's really interesting. What are they hiding? What are they still waiting to show us?
yeah, I think they did say
How I'm taking it.
maps will roughly be uh, Outer Worlds, Outer Wilds, Worlds, Wilds, whichever one. Um, roughly little larger size open world maps with multiple paths to take them on. Traversal with some of your magic abilities. They did say you could like freeze lakes and stuff to create new paths to access unexplorable areas otherwise.
That's cool.
There's a lot of choice.
Yeah, I think what would they say in the podcast? It was like they like having like a player, they like leaving a player shaped hole. And you can kind of so the player can fill it however they want, and that's cool being able to I want that the ability to be creative and kind of go out and do what you want. And it seems like they're going to let you do that, especially with like using the spells as part of solving like puzzles in the environment. That's cool.
Yeah, it opens up more from what they usually stick with. I'll admit I'm not the biggest Obsidian like fanboy up front. I enjoyed like the South Park games they did. Fallout New Vegas was okay. I'm not in that group. Yell at me later. Uh, Outer Worlds has kind of been different on, but I'm more naturally gravitated towards like the high fantasy side of things. So if the combat does nail with the story and characters and all the other stuff they're throwing in here, I do feel like it'll be a special thing. Something that really fights for my time this fall, which is already building up to be a stacked year again.
Yep.
Switching over here after Avowed, I will say they did say 2024, nothing further, no further windows or what.
Well, didn't they say fall 2024, which is
Yeah, fall 2024.
yeah.
Obviously Game Pass, first party studios. After that, thankfully, we got Hellblade 2. I said going into this, I was excited already. They literally could have showed this first image and popped up the release date, and that would have been enough for me. Like, I don't need to see more of this game. It's been however many years now. I've seen enough. I'm sold. You had me at the beginning. I get what you're going for. I just wanted the date and when I'll be playing this.
I agree. I'm pretty aligned with you. So how does the going into kind of what they were sharing in this direct? At one part they said this is like a smaller narrative experience similar to the first game. Does that do anything to you in either way?
I like it. I shouldn't even be saying this because compared to your situation with time for games, I struggle with larger experiences that are 50, 60 hours. I would rather stick with the smaller stuff, which I think even when they say smaller experience, the first one was like 7, 8 hours, maybe,
Yeah.
which is perfect for me. Like right now, where I'm at. That's what I want. I don't want like a 50, 60 hour open world RPG where it's just kind of throwing me in there. Like, I want to be led along, get to the end, have a good time, experience what they wanted me to see. All that good.
Totally agree. Yeah, every game is just so big, and at some point it's just like, oh, whatever, right? But it's like it's nice to have a smaller game. I've been dipping into a lot of smaller games lately, as I try to beat 100 games this year. Just I haven't beaten a lot of games in my life,
My name's
so I'm
Kyle, and I've beaten 4. Meh.
yeah, no. Hey, that's 1 a week so far. um, but it's been fun to like get the complete experience of what and the story that developers are telling, and it's been smaller indie games, but I'm excited that a bigger AAA style game is a little shorter in scope, but is packed with content, and content in the way of how they're doing stuff with the story and the different, reading here on the Wire post, the binaural and spatial audio stuff that they're doing. Like all that stuff is super, super cool. And they're devoting time into that as opposed to saying, let's get players into our game for never another 10, 20 hours. They're innovating in gameplay and sound and audio stuff. And I think that's so much more interesting than go do this other thing in this world for 20, 40, 100 hours.
Which, yeah, if you've played the original Hellblade, like, that gets to a point to being, like, unnerving. If you're playing it how they want you to with, like, headphones and, like, silence around you, whatever. Like, those settings with all the voices and stuff going on, I couldn't imagine sitting there for 40 hours of that. Like, I would not want that.
No, no, no.
I feel like some of my residents at work, if I'm doing that, I'm good. Do you have any?
I mean, all right, go for it.
I was going to ask, do you have? Because I honestly don't know. Do you have a personal opinion on their announcement that it's going to be a digital only release?
No, I mean, I think we're seeing developers and studios do different things and try different ways of monetizing and selling their games. Not having to pay for a physical product helps save money, and it lets them do other things as opposed to stuff. Most people get their games digital now, and I know there's people who don't. I used to not have consistent internet as of like 3 years ago or even 2 years ago. So like I was offline online a lot, so that really struggled. I struggled with that, but it's just kind of where the world is going, and I think it's up to how people want to do it.
It's
So
me.
I don't
I
think
am those people.
it's $50 too, so like that's cool,
Yeah,
right? Like I think if we're seeing unique pricing structures and pricing the game for what it exactly is, right? As opposed to, well, every game is 70 now. It's like, no, we're going to price it to what we're giving you. We're That means we're going to give it to you how we want to give it to you too. I don't know. I don't have any issue with it.
yeah. I was only asking because I am a still very big physical collector guy. If people have seen my streams in the background, I have like display stand for my local game store when they got new shelving. I bought their old stands off of them to put all my old stuff on and have my game display. So like having my physical copies and buy as much as I can. Still gonna play Hellblade. Still gonna support that team. I just personally still like my options, but
Yeah. I mean, I wonder, would you? Yeah, it's interesting the collecting side because I know that is a huge thing, and maybe that just goes out. That's something that phases out over the next 10, 20 years. Uh, but I mean, maybe collector's editions are things. Maybe I don't think they'll actually release it ever physically,
if they do, maybe
unless it blows like ratings and everyone's playing it and it's amazing. Then maybe.
I hope it blows ratings. Bring back the platinum hits
Oh,
from
it's been
360.
yes. I do think this game is going to be very, very good. I think they spent more time. I think it's in Unreal Engine 5, correct? And I think during development, they switched over to it, which to me explains the extra long development cycle.
Yeah, I
Um,
think they announced it like 6 or 8 months after the initial announcement with the Series X. I
oh, okay.
remember.
Okay. Well, either way, though, yeah, this is they're doing something that they want to do, and that is so exciting, right? They're not trying to make us, like we talked about, a big game. They're not trying to make the Xbox number one IP, right? This is, hey, we made Hellblade 1 and then Xbox bought us and they're still letting us make Hellblade 2 the way we want. And that's awesome, right? And I think we're going to get a very, very good game, and it's going to be what that game is. It's not going to be what other people are hyping it up to be. I know some people are. I've seen a couple comments saying like, "Oh, this doesn't look like God of War or anything." It's like, no, that's not what it is at all.
Oh,
Not at all.
Yeah, I think
Twitter's a fun time.
it's bad. I need to stay off of Twitter.
Me too.
Yeah, I think a lot of, as you mentioned, with people being worried that it would be like this new thing entirely, but them sticking with what the first game built. I think a lot of that still sadly comes from the old Xbox when they were acquiring studios like Rare, and they just went off and did entirely different stuff than what people were used to. That fear is still sort of ingrained in fans' heads. Like, oh,
Yeah, and that's any corporate thing buys another corporate thing that, they merge and it becomes that new thing, right? It's just how it is. But, when you have creative stuff like this, it's exciting to have that art not be changed as of yet, right?
yeah.
Let them finish this and then loop them into what you want them to do.
Well, even after that, let them finish this, and then they're on to their horror game that they've been teasing about equally as long as this, which I'm also spacing on the name of. It has a project name or something.
Yeah, I don't know too much about that at all. That's interesting, though.
And that, pull it up here, finally, May 21st release date, Xbox Series, PC, Game Pass. About time. It still leaves, I saw some people complaining that it leaves like a 4-month gap at the beginning of the year for no first-party releases, but that's okay. I'm waiting the extra time for it. Moving on from that, next was the surprise release, which, again, Twitter, I was in the camp. There was rumors somewhere that started that Double Fine would be featured with the surprise drop this year to mimic Hi-Fi Rush. I sadly fell into that and drafted it in our fantasy critics, so I need to drastically change things. Instead, to my surprise, it was Square Enix, third party, coming in with Visions of Mana, which was announced last year, I believe, at Summer Game Fest or the Game Awards, one of the two. Wasn't giving console specifics then, but this will be the first Visions game coming to an Xbox platform. And I do believe since then, it might have been Xbox Wire or one of the overseas Xbox accounts did announce it will be in Game Pass. So for new fans of the series, I know almost nothing about the series. I was absolutely shocked when they said there was 30 games, because I only could name you 2. But
I know nothing of this series. I was like, cool, a new game, and then they just kept listing all the the Mana games that have been released, and I was like, holy shit, this is a huge ass thing. Never mind. It's cool that games that traditionally aren't on Xbox are coming over, getting to a new audience. Also, what I take out of this is Xbox and Square Enix continuing to be buddy buddy. I think that's really good, and that's really cool long term for Xbox, and to see where that partnership goes.
yeah, and that was something that they specifically said, like they're working on rebuilding those relationships with Japanese studios. And this, I feel, is the best place they could have got or started with that outside of the big ones like Final Fantasy. But this, I know it still has a cult following. People online, a few people I follow, are absolutely blowing up about this. I believe this is from the older man Koichi Ishii here in the video. Was one of the original guys on Final Fantasy when that started back in the day and created like the Chocobo and Moogle characters. So it is rooted with that same original team that kind of pushed Square Enix to the forefront when they were struggling back in the day. But
man, he's so cool looking.
he is. He looks like he should be like like a police detective in like an anime drama or something.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. I think the game looks cool. And it's something that, again, if it is in Game Pass, I couldn't find anything confirming that. But so if it does end up in Game Pass, that's awesome. It's something that I will definitely try. Just hop in and try. But again, another big RPG. Nah, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna get too deep. But I'll try it just to get the vibe and everything. Again, hey, more options are great.
I only got space for one big RPG this year, and that's coming out Friday. Uh, will not have time for Visions of Mana, and that was just summer 2024. Nothing further date on that. I think that's what was given last year. Again, just a new console added to the list for it. Following up on that was Our History Untold from Oxide Games. I believe a bunch of old Civilization developers, new studio. You tweeted about this, I believe, correct?
Yeah, I'm super interested in this game.
Okay.
I re-downloaded Civilization. Not it's always downloaded. I started another game of Civilization 6 after the developer direct just cuz I got that itch I from watching the gameplay. It's just such a good put on a podcast, put on a movie, put on a TV show and like play your turns. It's such a great way to waste 7 8 hours accidentally. Um I'm intrigued by what they're doing with Aura though. The simultaneous turns and the crafting system, the experience they have making because they some of those devs did make Civ and other strategy like games. What their experience and what they're adding to really intrigue me. So I'm really interested in this one. I'm bummed it's coming out in fall. I really would have loved the spring release date for this. I feel like it's kind of a nice time for it. I mean, you have Avowed, you have Aura, you have Indie, most likely. So, and then you have every other third party. Like, fall's just packed, and this is going to get buried.
Throw in Starfield DLC, probably September in there too.
I'm hoping that's summer.
I hope.
I hope. It's fall's already. If Starfield DLC is fall, that's way too packed,
Yeah.
in my opinion. I'm hoping Starfield DLC is a lot sooner than we think.
Once everyone's like, oh, you thought 2023 was a bigger year? Already, like, 3 games came out this year that are just 90 plus critic scores, killing it.
I know. That's crazy. That's so fun.
Um, so with Aura, because I'm not a Civilization guy, I'm not really a tactics guy. I've dabbled with, like, Command and Conquer back in the day, but I feel even that's, like, entirely separate from what this is. So what is... You mentioned, like, the crafting and stuff. Is that new for these type of games, or...
It seems like the way they're implementing it and overall yes, because it seems like you can equip items with it. I haven't looked too much into it. I just know there's not much crafting in a lot of these, especially in Civ at least. Um, the simultaneous turns is interesting. I don't know if that is like going to be felt in a single player game or if it's going to be felt only in the multiplayer game because I haven't played multiplayer in Civ. So that's interesting. I just don't know what that gameplay element is actually going to look like. But I'm excited just for a fresh take on it. I think the competition is good, so I'm hoping this is good enough that kind of pushes I like new stuff. So this is exciting that they're trying something new. I think it looks good. Um, they have mechs eventually, and that's always fun. Um, yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
Cool. Yeah, I'm indifferent still. Like I said, it's not... It wasn't enough to really pique my interest to be like, oh, I want to check this out type thing, but it looks cool. I'm sure the people that are into that type of stuff will absolutely be all over this, as long as it
Yeah, and
has an open window in fall.
yeah. I just think that's like the beauty of Game Pass and this direct too is you're not gonna be into everything, and that's okay. Like I wasn't into Visions of Mana. Everything else I'm into in this direct, that's awesome. But I wasn't into everything in the other one, so I think that's what's really cool about Game Pass and what Xbox is trying to do is really they have a lot of different type of games in genres, which is super super cool.
Yeah, and giving the devs time to like actually explain and talk through what they're doing with it, I feel super smart. If you were to just throw this long trailer in like the June showcase, it would have been felt like filler to the 10th degree. But putting it in this,
Yeah, it would have felt like what they did when they announced it, right? It was just like, oh, cool, a strategy game that's going to be on Game Pass, awesome.
and then immediately skips over. Yeah.
Yeah, and to me now, I'm like, oh, I personally, just because I'm into those games, I'm more interested now. So it did exactly what it needed to, and I think that's a great sign for these directs.
As we said, fall 2024. I believe just PC Game Pass, no console talk yet. If I don't know how you'd even transition this over to console. I know they did with Civ, but this looks like way more buttons on screen that I don't want to deal with.
Yeah, it seems like, yeah, I appreciate that they're like focusing on PC. You know, I think this is the type of game it is. They're not trying to have it be both. I think eventually we'll see it though.
Yeah, give it a year, update next year type thing.
Exactly.
Moving on to cap out the show, the big one, Indiana Jones, as we now know as Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which sounds kind of dorky, but we like circles, I guess. I'm gonna say it now. I'm not a big movie guy, old movie guy. I have never seen an Indiana Jones movie.
Wow. Not even like the new ones though either.
Nope. Even like
That's surprising.
Star Wars and stuff, I didn't see. The first one I saw was Episode 7. Before watching any of the older ones.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think they're worth a watch. But I grew up with them, and I grew up in Southern California going to Disneyland and going on the ride and just being enamored with Indiana Jones and that whole style and mystique around it. So what does the game do for you then?
I'm excited. I'm hyped because I know like what the IP means. I know it's like obviously I don't know if I was like cult following, but it's one of the bigger things that everyone loves, and having that like brought in to a game, which I think it's like the first game for this, outside of maybe like movie tie-ins back in the day. I was hyped going in, hyped because of the studio making it, and now actually seeing it very much has my interest. A few things, Uncanny Valley things going on again. That may just be me. But no, everything they showed, it was super. I'm all in. I love machine games. I love the Wolfenstein games they've done. This looks right up my alley. Nice mix of action and puzzle.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited for this. I think what they showed was perfect, and they told you and showed you how you're going to play as Indiana Jones. The vibe is exactly what the movies are. The music is there. I think. I mean, we know it's. Oh, how do I not know his name right now? Troy Baker. There it is.
It's always Troy Baker.
Is the lead, and I think I'm gonna have to hear more of it, but I think it's gonna be totally fine. You definitely can tell it's Troy, but I think it also is a very good Harrison Ford as well. And I'm like, this is gonna be fun. Oh, that moment that just went by in the trailer where it's the music, it's the bum bum bum, it's like on beat. This
punching
trailer with the with the punching, yeah, it's so good. The whip looks so fun. They went and then they go more in depth later on where they say we had to get this right. We need to get the whip right. We understand that's like, yes, if you get the whip right, I think everything else can fall in place, and you just got to figure out what that gameplay is. And it seems like they did. This looks great. I love the puzzle aspects, the first the fighting, and then when you get to the planes and you get the big set piece moments that we know from Wolfenstein games and such. It's gonna be so much fun. I'm so excited for it. It has to come out in 2024.
Yeah, as you said, with the whip, I'm happy it's mixture that is used in combat. You see him like catch people by the leg, pulling them into him and stuff, but also using it for the traversal and other aspects instead of making it just like sort of a weapon by itself. I said, yeah, Troy Baker sounds great. it's weird if you watch this trailer. There's like distinct times where I'm like, okay, yeah, that's Troy, and the other times like that's a really good like Harrison Ford impersonation, and it kind of flips back and forth when I listen to it. Um,
Yeah, yeah. He has it really good in some words, and in other words, he sounds like Troy.
yeah, it may just be
I
the
think once we
delivery on
hear,
it.
yeah, I think once we hear more of it, it'll fall into like, oh, this is indie. You know, this is this indie, right? It's just right now we can pick it apart. And I was at least I watched this trailer a couple times, just listening to it.
Yeah, I watched a couple times back, dude, just because it's nice that, like I said, it was 2 years ago now. This was revealed officially, but now it's one of those things like, hey, here's our big tentpole thing for the year. Showing it to you now. You'll get it this year. No leading you along forever. Piece feeding you information. There was a solid like 10-minute video gameplay. Like they weren't holding back on anything.
Yeah, I mean, you go to their. I'm on Bethesda.net, and they say over 13 minutes of gameplay, which is to me, I'm like, I was about to say, like, you have like, I can't imagine this not coming out in 2024. I just think they didn't want to place a date yet. You know, I really think this is coming out this year.
Yeah. If I let me see if I can pull it up. This was in the one of the court leaks last year from Bethesda, where like their sort of roadmap of when they had this initially tagged, because they did have a unannounced licensed IP game tagged for a certain year. So um, give me a second.
Yeah,
Originally 2022 this was launched, so or penned for. So yeah, 2 years after the fact.
it makes sense. Last year would have been there. Hey, here it is. Now we're delaying it, but they didn't even announce it, right? Everyone figured out stop announcing stuff too early.
Yeah, finally.
And I think now it's like, no, this direct, we know we're coming out this year, and they didn't have dates for everything last direct. Some were just years as well. So I think that's what we should expect out of this, and I'm excited. I think December. We'll see this in December.
Do you? That's what Caitlin said too when we were watching this. But I almost feel like it has to be get out for the holiday season before Black Friday sort of thing.
That would make sense around Thanksgiving, like November, December. Then I think with Avowed though, that's your fall. I think that's your September. I think that's your Starfield slot. That what Starfield filled, so that's September. And then you kind of go from there. So it could be a little earlier in the year. I don't know. It just makes sense for like a blockbuster movie type thing late in the year.
Yeah.
But maybe they want a game. Maybe they want some awards for this though. So it have
Oh,
to come out earlier to be considered for stuff.
gotta get before the cutoff window for the Keeleys.
Yeah, you got to. That's how you get money.
It is how you get money. Uh and this now too, it's kind of to tie it back in. I was thinking about it earlier. It does really go to show kind of where Microsoft is like open to partnerships with people, because they're really, even with this now, further kind of establishing a bond with Disney. Where if you think about it, we've had Indiana Jones now. Blade was just announced last year. We've had the Pirates of the Caribbean expansion and Sea of Thieves. So it's a strong relationship with them growing that I would like to see further expanded on, maybe. But
Yeah. Well, I think what Disney tried to make games themselves with like Disney Infinity and stuff, and then they had the Star Wars license, was tied up with EA for 10 years, and then PlayStation got Spider-Man, and that's Marvel but Disney adjacent or owned by Disney. And that was so successful, I think. Now Disney's like, all right, let's just have studios make our stuff, and Xbox is right there saying, hey, we're here. It's exciting to see. It's good. I think I miss like the days where we get those okay movie game adaptations or video game movie adaptation. You know what I'm trying to say. The games based on movies that were just
yeah,
like kind of okay, but like a short little 10-hour, 15-hour experience. I was like, all right, I played Pirates of the Caribbean 3 in a video game. That was fun. Like I those can be games that are good in their own way, and this is kind of the evolution of it. Instead of making the Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny video game, let's just make a video game that is Indiana Jones in its own story, but it's also Indiana Jones, right? Let's make a Spider-Man game that is Spider-Man. It is a Spider-Man story, full throughout, but it's its own thing, right? It's a video game too. Um, it's exciting. I think it's smart that Disney is doing that, and I think we'll see even more of it. I mean, Hogwarts too came out this year or last year and sold a bunch. So all these IPs that are
Sold
finally getting into the
bunch.
oh bunch, yeah, all these companies are finally like, hey, let the people actually make the game that they're seeing and wanting to make, and hey, you get good stuff.
Yeah, with this too, with Indiana Jones, I believe they did say it is like canon with the movies. It takes place between the first and second one, I think. They said at the
which is so
beginning.
cool. I like that, and I think that's smart. If you're gonna have it look like Harrison Ford, you gotta lean into like we're gonna sound like him, and we're gonna make it a part of the canon. It makes people care about it too. I think, as opposed to hey, it's this fun little indie game, and it's with this Indiana Jones. And you're like, all right.
Yeah, they my favorite version of that happening. Um, I'm a big Kingdom Hearts guy. If you've ever touched those, they announced with the third one that the Toy Story world is canon to the Toy Story movies. So in the back of my mind now, I'm like, oh, these people are like fighting demons and shit in between the second and third movie. In the back of my mind, I'm like, this is perfect.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
It's great.
They just don't talk about it.
Yeah. Like, oh, we're fighting demons and like stealing people's hearts and like weapons. And Toy Story 3. Um, the other one too, I'll be interested to see when it gets announced is the 007 game from IO. If that ends up being like canon to the James Bond franchise, whenever that gets an official reveal.
Yeah, I imagine that is its own thing, just with how James Bond can be its own thing over the years, right? You have different iterations with each actor. I feel like unless they get Daniel Craig, it would just be its own thing. I can see them going after getting maybe what they're doing here with Indiana Jones. It looks like him, and you get someone to get close to the voice.
It's Troy
If they
Baker.
do, yeah, if they do that, I think Troy Baker's just gonna be James Bond and Indy. But yeah,
Yeah,
I've never played a Hitman game.
I played the old ones. I haven't jumped into. I really want to get into the new ones that came out, but that again, it's like 3 games combined into one now. Like, I don't got time.
Yeah, yeah. I think I opened it up because I was like, cool, and I was like, oh no, this is. I gotta actually learn some stuff first, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the language of this game at all.
And that, as you said, that was just Indiana Jones, just 2024. Hoping fall, Xbox Series, consoles, PC, Game Pass day one. I was impressed. I have people online. Oh, it's not third person Uncharted, blah blah blah, because people are dumb. But they still kind of give you that with the traversal aspects. You get to still see the character actually. It's not just like a aimless first person. You could be anyone technically.
Yeah, I think for the gameplay, it's first person's fine. It's what the studio knows. This is the game we want to make. If we play the game and it's weird, then we can complain, right?
Yeah.
But this is what they're known for, so it makes sense. I appreciate that they do go the third person when you're like, what I think they show when you're on the using the whip to like go down a rope.
That
Zip line,
and
that's the word.
ladders,
Like
yeah.
the rope. You know, it's like third person. It's like that makes sense because that's like disorienting. So I appreciate that, but I think it's totally fine. It's what they want.
And yeah, that
See the
was.
back of his head.
I want to see the Indiana butt. 40
Yeah, that's
hours.
true though. Actually, yeah. Darn, we're gonna miss out on that butt.
And that was the showcase. I thought super great lineup. Did you have any guesses going in if there was going to be a surprise 5th game or anything along those sorts based off of online conversation?
I didn't have like a guess or anything, but I figured there would be a 5th game just because it's what they did last year. And I think that's a fun precedent to set. Like, here's our 4 games we're to talk about, but make sure you tune in because we're going to show you something. Last year was a surprise announce, a shadow drop of Hi-Fi Rush. This year, hey, Visions of Mana is coming to Xbox. It's like, oh, that's cool for what it is. Again, not for me, but for other people, that's a really cool announcement, especially being a surprise. So it makes me excited for next year, knowing we're going to get a 5th thing. I'm imagining it's going to be 4 games, and surprise, here's a 5th. So, yeah, overall, I love this direct. I thought it was. I'll give it an A. um,
Oh, 100%, hands down.
they showed everything well. The pacing was great. They really have figured. They're really hitting their stride with this show, and finding the balance of showing off the gameplay, showing off the game, and letting the developers talk. I think they hit a perfect balance this time.
Yeah. And huge shout out to Tina Amini, formerly of IGN, who's kind of like taken up these events and the production of them. This last year was great. Showcase in June last year was great. Their showing at Game Awards was fantastic. Like, it's just been nonstop knockout of the park every time they bring something up.
Yeah, it's consistent, uniform. It feels like Xbox understands what they're trying to do and they have their messaging down.
Finally.
Finally, right? The dominoes are
Yeah.
there.
Speaking of dominoes, looking ahead with this now, just real quick, for Xbox 2024, we're now looking at Hellblade 2, Avowed, Microsoft Flight Simulator, which easily could have been in this direct, I feel, Aura, and Towerborn still. Sea of Thieves updates, Season 11 of that just launched today, which they announced is kind of like the beginning of Sea of Thieves 2.0, so everything from here on out update-wise will be like brand new stuff introduced outside of like fixes.
Ooh.
Halo Infinite multiplayer updates. I sent it to you. They're changing how seasons work. All the old Battle Pass stuff is becoming retroactively unlockable. And they're getting out of the major seasons, I believe, and going to like smaller style patch updates, throwing stuff in as fast as they can instead of waiting kind of quarters at a time. Updates to Forza Motorsport and Minecraft, obviously. Indiana Jones, Elder Scrolls Online Gold Road, which was the expansion we mentioned earlier, they had the same day. Starfield Shattered Space expansion, Elder Scrolls Castle, which was announced, I think, the week they announced the Direct, which is their new mobile game, very similar in the style of Fallout Shelter, if you played that back when that came out.
Oh, I still play it every now and then because I bought stuff years ago, so I feel like I can't delete it.
I jumped back last year because I had the idea I was going to get the last 2 achievements I needed.
Oh, see, I play it on my phone.
Oh, no, I was the console version of that. I was dumb.
Oh no, I bought my phone and I was like, heck yeah, I want to buy some random pets.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I can't delete this. I spent money on this. But no, I'm excited for the Castle game. I was like, I want more mobile games. I think I want a company to figure out how to make a mobile game not predatory, right? Like, let me play fun games on mobile.
Did you hop on the Marvel Snap trend last year?
Yeah, I played a bit of it, but again, it's just, I don't know. It's not for me.
Fair. That's the one I used to play some like dumb WWE card game back in the day, and that was about it. But I hopped on the Marvel Snap train when that came out, and I still like daily am doing my challenges.
Nice. Yeah, see, I want a game to hit like that, but not necessitate I put so much time in. I don't know. Mobile games are weird.
Yeah. You either dumping a ton of money into it, or it's not worth looking at twice.
Yeah. Or it's like putting too much. It's like every day log in, and I'm like, okay, but like, what if I didn't have to do that? What if I can just play a mobile game and then beat it? Right?
No.
Wouldn't that be? That's what I'm excited for. So keep putting games on mobile. We'll get there eventually.
You need to have a blood sacrifice when you first log in to make sure you stay attached.
You can't leave. Pretty much. But yeah, I think Xbox has a very exciting year based off everything you were just listing. I'm incredibly excited.
Yeah, and that's still leaving out stuff with like Activision games and Game Pass. Call of Duty is
Oh,
technically in there now. Blizzard stuff with Overwatch and the next World of Warcraft expansion coming out in the fall. Like everywhere you look, it's just gonna be Xbox logos floating around.
do you, kind of. Here's my last question. Do
Yes.
you think next Xbox show is summer, or do you think they'll have one or a couple smaller things? And I guess not just for like one game. Like if Avowed said, "Hey, we're gonna go deep into our gameplay. Here it is." I don't count that in this, right?
Yeah.
I think an Xbox show with multiple things showing off.
I think we're at least getting one similar. I know people online talked about this, similar to what they did with Bethesda, where they kind of sat down of what they were going to do with those studios, how they were going to handle it, what was going to change, sort of thing.
Hmm.
Just because there is still very much in the up in the air of, hey, we have Activision Blizzard and Raven and all these other companies now, but what does that mean? Like people have these crazy theories that Raven's going to be able to go off and start making their own games again. Like we're not entirely sure about that yet, if that's going to happen. So I'd like something like that. Um, I would like the June showcase to stay how it is, just because I have such nostalgia for that time of year. Um, I used to back in the day when E3 was happening. I would have like 10 people shoved in my mom's living room with like 5 TVs set up in a circle, and we would just all sit around and watch E3 press conferences when that happened. So still having that happen in June is like I request off for that. That's my time. That's my Super Bowl. Like I look forward to those.
I love that.
So I'd love for that to stick around. And honestly, I feel that was at the point. If you do that in June, you could maybe throw in another developer direct or something new in like October, November. I think they used to with what was the live like fan show they used to do? XO. Oh, I remember they did one in like Mexico and they did one in Europe, and they announced like Grounded there and stuff.
One of those.
What is
Yeah,
it?
the Xbox like.
XO event, yeah. So maybe bring that back for the fall. Nothing major, but like do that for maybe like your live service type games. Give updates for those. Give them their own time because I feel like a lot of that stuff gets overlooked. Even we've talked. I'm a big Sea of Thieves guy, and new season launched. The community's hype, but I don't see like outsiders wanting to look at it and be like, "Oh, I want to check this out." Finally, type thing. Give that its
I
own
learned.
show to show
Yeah,
off.
I learned. Sorry, I learned a season drop from you right now, right? So that's kind of where they're at.
And it's major. Like I said, it's not like they straight up like this is Sea of Thieves 2.0. This was the last like core how the game runs. They revamped tutorial. They revamped how the open world works. Like from here on out, it's all going to be new additions finally, and maybe the big expansion that they do yearly, like the Monkey Island and Pirates of the Caribbean stuff. But that's yet to be seen.
Yeah. Hmm.
Oh, little tangent there.
Awesome. No, that's interesting. Yeah, I kind of agree. I think June is that showcase is going to stay for the because Jeff Keighley also has got that week now, so
Yeah,
it's gonna stay there. I think that's also what the community expects, the industry expects, and I think yeah, I could see a smaller showcase. I do think we need an Activision thing this year, and even if it's just Phil talking to us, right, or just a blog post to just kind of, we need to know what's going on, right?
yeah. I would love to hop on like the bandwagon online. I would love for all the studios to be let free. Give me the Spiral 4 that was rumored after Crash Bandicoot 4 came out. Like, give me all of that. But as of now, it's like, are you still just Call of Duty teams? Like, what does that mean going forward?
Yeah, it's I can't. Yeah, I just can't imagine all those studios would stay as support for that thing. But I mean, if Xbox is gonna let them run how they run, maybe that's what it is too. But with Bobby Kotick out, maybe it changes. It's so interesting, right? We just there's so many unknowns, and it'd be we all want to say the developers do what they want. A Spiral 4 sounds great. Just to see if that IP can still live, like, and Crash is, so give it a chance, and I would play it. But yeah, and then with it's there's so much possibility with it.
Yeah, I tweeted about it a couple days ago. There's been so much that's like kind of been wrapped up now, as far as like releases, the legal stuff, back end stuff, the mergers, like so much of that's been wrapped up, but now just a whole new corridor of questions has come out that has the internet kind of in a shitstorm. Rumors flying everywhere you look, people upset about this and that, but in the end, I'm just trying to enjoy some games. That's all.
Yep.
But unless you have anything else, we are just about an hour here, I feel. Went through showcasing a little extra.
No, I am good. I'm excited to play these games, and I'm excited to see. It's crazy that the first game out of this list is Hellblade in May, right? I'm like, I want something sooner, but these games look great.
Yeah. Just like I said, May is fine. I've been talking about it. Like a Dragon comes out Friday, which I will probably be playing till May. I think last one I put like 200 hours into. So I will be set till May and Hellblade comes around, and then I'll jump right back into Like a Dragon anyways.
That's crazy. I have no interest in Like a Dragon.
It's so goofy. You
It
go.
has, like the nines, right? It's getting great review scores. I'm just like, nothing is selling me on this. This sounds not for me.
If you're not like a turn-based guy, it's
I
definitely
didn't
out.
even know it was turn-based. I didn't
What?
even know that.
Oh,
That
yeah.
wasn't the issue those were not the issues I had.
Oh yeah. No, it's turn-based. It's like it's turn-based, but you have like an area to walk around in, so you can still kind of like set up attacks, like knock enemies into the environment or into your other party members for combos and stuff like that. Yeah, it's full-blown turn-based RPG, but instead of like I'm shooting a fireball, the guy's like chugging a bottle of wine and like shooting fire out of his mouth, or like summoning pigeons to attack you, or it's just goofy. I love it.
Yeah. Now I've been playing a little bit of Pal World.
You like it? I'm so scared to jump into it.
It's a very good survival game. It is very good. It is a very solid game. It's surprising.
Yeah.
It's worth a try if you're into those games, but it's hard not to play it. Hard not.
Well, it's one of those things that like, oh, I'm missing out on the next big thing again. Watching from the sidelines, like waving at everyone having fun.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's only in early access, so that's kind of the plus there. It's not even out yet, you know?
Yeah, I think.
But, man, 5 million in like 4 days, I think. Crazy.
Money. And it was like the joke game last year when that was announced. Like, oh, it's Pokemon guns, oh, pew pew, and now it's like, no, this shit everyone's got to play. Get on it now.
Yeah, but it's a fun game. Let us have a good Pokemon game. I'm not that passionate about Pokemon.
Oh, I am. It was sad.
I have beaten 0 Pokemon games. I'm close to beating Violet.
Is that like the first one you've ever played, or just the one you're closest to beating?
That'd be the first I ever beat.
Okay.
I've played them randomly throughout the years, tried them, and been like, this is dumb.
Are you just not an RPG guy?
No, I don't think I ever got into Pokemon, so I
Okay.
didn't care. And this one I actually got like put time into, and I was like, all right, I get it. Violet sucks though. It runs so bad.
Yeah.
But I'll beat it still. I'm close. I got like 2 more fights, I think. Anyways, now we're on a big tangent.
Yeah, we're going off. We're gonna end it here. Till next time. I'm sure Kyle will be back eventually, sometime. We will be.
Oh, sure.
I'm still deciding if I'm streaming Like a Dragon. I think I'm going towards no, just because there's like half-hour cutscenes in that, and that's going to be boring for people. But till then, you can find. I should have a new piece on Xbox's State of 2024 and kind of what's going up on the site here, hopefully by Friday. And then streaming Contrast will be our next game on Twitch. Hopefully get that done before Like a Dragon comes out. I don't think it's super long, so should be able to knock that out. Kyle, if you want to plug anything on your end before we sign off.
Yeah, I stream over on Twitch at Kyle the Fish 30. Very random right now as I have a 5-month-old that I take care of. Trying to get more consistent with it. Also on YouTube at the same thing at Kyle the Fish 30. Same thing, just figuring it out. I have a baby.
Oh, baby. Baby over games and streaming.
Exactly, yeah. That's priority, and she's fun.
Can't stream the baby. That would be weird.
No, she can't hold it.
Okay, until next time, this is Bleep Bleep episode 9. Ooh, goodbye.